Hello, everyone. Kiler Davenport here, the lone wolf, senior co-host Chad Nicholson. The show is Strike Force News, coming out of Alternative Public Radio International. If you want to check our website out, it's all lowercase, alternativepublicradiointernational.com. We are streaming live from Restream on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and soon to be many more. So you guys tune in, be sure and share the show, hit the like button if there are any, and use our embed code to stream live from some of your platforms and pages and groups, and encourage your friends to do the same. Really appreciate all of our fans and supporters out there, and just sit back and enjoy the show. Thank you all very much, and we'll turn it over to the live show now. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, Screaming Crow and the Lone Wolf, back again, live 6:02 p.m. on the clock, 6/6/2023. I just woke up from a deep coma. I think Marion saved my life. I had wow, this has been totally crazy, insane here today. I'll tell you, it's been just really, really insane today. Trying to see who's on here. Yeah, there we go. Social comments display here. Let me say hello to everyone. And you spell hello. There you go. Okay. Yeah, we are here waiting for Chad. Chad is on a mission tonight, and he'll be in and out, popping in and out of the viewing profile here. We got a very good show tonight, and I'm going to read the description. Things have kind of changed. Hello, Marina. Good to have you here, Marina. Great to have you here. Uh, really, really happy to see you here. I'm going to read the description for tonight's show. As I said, Chad will be popping in and out, and I'm looking at my Facebook page right now to see what's going on. It is live now. There it is. It says Kiler Davenport's live now. That's kind of interesting to see. Go over here and read the description for tonight's show. It's kind of interesting, really, if I can find it here. Here we go. Strike Force News. There it is. See more. Yeah, I was calling this the changing of the guard tonight, ladies and gentlemen. God, I've got a lot of new friends. It's amazing here. I see one of my old friends, actually from Nashville, uh, almost made it to stardom. I think she made it to the Grand Ole Opry once, and then she quit the business and went into real estate. What a weird thing. But, to each his own. But on this evening's show, The Changing of the Guard, Strike Force News with Kiler Davenport, Chad Nicholson, be talking about the changing of the guard, also talking about how the world's population has been lulled into this hypnotic trance over the last century, and how the children have been completely conscripted by the deep state, and all power has been taken away from parents to determine the future of their children. Children will now be ruled by the machine. These changes are inevitable and unstoppable. The the substrate going to be talking tonight. As I said, I went into a seizure. I have had a major seizure, and I was unconscious. And Mary found me unconscious earlier, and I was not breathing, and she got me back. So I'm just kind of dazed a little bit. Y'all will have to deal with me. I was completely unconscious and I was seizing, and she got me back, and I just woke up about 20 minutes ago. And Wow, it was a trip. That's all I could say. It was a trip. But let me. I'm just glad to be here. Thankful to be alive. You might say. Um, but tonight we're going to be talking about the substrate and the operating system behind our basic perceptions that have been hiding in plain sight since the beginning of what we call civilization. Um, are now in complete control of the very fabric of what we call consciousness, and we're going to be going a little bit in depth on that. The deep state actors have remained invisible in the substrate, and we're going to be I'm going to be describing what this substrate is, this operating system that we keep mentioning. Chad and I have talked a lot about this operating system that's going on behind the scenes of the nodal construct or compressed consciousness within the calculations that we've done. Um, but the deep state actors have remained invisible, as has the central operating system that has brought these seemingly diabolical agendas, such as 21, 30, and 50 in. So tonight we're going to be talking about this, and it's going to be a rather interesting show, I think. As many of you know, I am very interested in perception. I have always been interested in perception. This is why I took a real liking to sociology and socio-psychology and psychodemographic stratification analysis, and looking at all of these different sociological, psychological variables that we have to deal with every single day. But I've always been very interested in perception and artificial intelligence, and ask the question, as many do, are we machines? And this is kind of what the show is about tonight. Chad and I have been in deep discussion about all of this over the last few weeks, actually, if you want to really stretch it out. Are we machines? People keep asking me this question. I got a lot of PMs today. I got a few emails today. Are we machines, or are we something else? More than machines. Um, a very interesting question, a very deep question. And as a very young person, I was interested in all of these questions, and was learning to program, so I knew what programming was. Um, and my parents were not deeply religious, but they were, you might say, spiritual. So I was into the scientific and I was into the spiritual, and I was very interested in what I call then human nature, and was trying to put all this stuff together from a very early age. And on the side of programming, or with programming and new kinds of capacities of artificial intelligence that were coming out as I was growing up, it was looking like we might be machines. And I was coming to this conclusion at a very early age, actually, for some reason. I was thinking we are machines, because all of my thinking and all of my studies and research at the time, started researching at a very young age. And on the other hand, there's supposed to be something about us that's beyond the machine. And so I was very curious about these two things. And so I started studying very deep, and I went into computer science and mathematics, and had a minor in psychology, and getting my major doctorate in sociology, socio-psychology. But I didn't go to MIT. I did go to some prominent universities, and I was studying brain and cognitive science, and was able then at that point to study both brain and cognitive sciences together, along with some aspects of human nature and artificial intelligence and different models of intelligence at that time. It was very multidimensional thinking, and I was trying to put a picture together of who we are, as most of you I know have had this curiosity. Who are we? What are we? Where do we come from? And I was doing this at a very young age. At the age of 2, I was doing this, trying to put this picture together in my mind of, who are we? I wanted to know who we are. What is human nature? What are we? Are we just machines? Are we just biological machines? Are we just computers or something beyond the space time continuum, physical machine? So I wasn't sure, but I kept pursuing the mathematical models. And back in the 80s, I had a lot of collaborations with a lot of mathematicians and a lot of different scientists from different fields of neurology and cognitive sciences and neurosciences, and actually had looked at some mathematical models and were studying very deeply, talking with my collaborators at the time. And I realized the mathematics was saying to me, what you were seeing is not the truth. What you were seeing, this may not be the truth out here, what we're seeing. Okay. And this started me down a path, and I still remember that moment when this hit me, and I realized what the math was saying to me, and I wasn't trying to get there. Um, it was just I was trying to get a general theory in my head or perception mathematically. And I realized that math was the answer, that we don't necessarily see the truth. Math kept telling me this over and over again. And as I studied the other collaborators, and the other advisors, the other consultants, and the other counselors, and the other people in science, they were seeing the same thing, that we're not seeing the truth. We've never seen the truth. We've never experienced the truth. We've never experienced reality. We've never seen reality. We've never lived in reality, which was a shocker. And I had to sit down. Literally shocked me to the core when I finally realized this. It shocked me to the core, and it was such a shock to my system. And this was back, like I said, in the 80s. And, I've been following this thread ever since, and trying to see where it would take me. So basically, that math was like a red pill. I guess you would say back then, it was a red pill. Um, I took the red pill, or at least I put it in my mouth. I don't think I swallowed it at the time completely, but I was concerned enough that I wanted to look into this very deeply and see what I could find behind this type of analysis and thinking. Um, and I kind of feel like I was back, and I would have never taken the pill. Many people have asked me, "Do you wish you would have never put the red pill in your mouth?" And the answer, of course, is no, no, no. I don't. I would have put the red pill in my mouth. That's just the way I am. And now I've swallowed the red pill completely down to the gut. So, the blue pill is very boring. And so I don't want to be there. I do not want to be in the blue pill group, as they say. Um, I went actually, I wanted to know actually whatever reality might be. I wanted to know what it was or if it was, and if it's uncomfortable, then I'm ready to go with the red pill. Whatever I find in that red pill, I said I'm going to go with it. No matter what comes out of it, I'm going to go with it. And here I am today, and find out what it's like. So yeah, um, you know, I got introduced first to Tony Hesh, who used to work with Zappos and a lot of other folks, CEO of Zappos, and heard a lot of the TED Talks and worked with Zubin, been with Zubin, listened to Zubin, interested in consciousness. And I wanted to check all this out, and I've listened to all of the great, great scientists, and they were all seeming to say the same thing. They were all seeming to find the same thing. And here were scientists, so it's very interesting. They were all saying that we do not see things as they really are. And this is 5,000 scientists in my memory banks at the moment that have said we do not see the truth, we do not know the truth, that the truth does not exist in this particular realm in front of the substrate. So we have a substrate running, we have a DOS program running behind this delusion that we're living in, this space time delusion that we're living in. We have a semi conscious, semi cognitive program running, but we've never been able to get to the substrate. We've never been able to get to the DOS, we might say, program, to make it easier for you to understand. They're just constructions of our mind. And not only that, but they're not even close to reality. We have constructions. We have constructions. We have illusions. We have delusions. We have nodules. We have nodals. We have vectors. We have these constituent parts and pieces of the puzzle, but we're not even close to what might be called reality. They're purely iconic to help us survive. That's all. Just purely iconic. We have just enough information to help us survive. That's all we see. And we're not seeing the underlying DOS. We're not seeing the underlying uh, structure. We're not seeing the underlying basis of any of this, the source material from any of this. So it's really interesting, how people think about this. And many of you have had that red pill moment, but a lot of you haven't gone down the hole as deep as I have, but I was just riveted reading all of these books that I've read on some of the top scientists in the world. you know, what is reality? What is reality? These people have been asking this for hundreds, if not thousands of years. What is the world? What is this world actually? What is it? And so it's led me down this path, this very interesting path. I went down the Don Hoffman rabbit hole, and I watched a lot of lectures on what reality is and what it is not. And the study of visual perception has been something that I've been very interested in for years and years. And what I've been saying with this case against reality, which is actually a book that I've read, and you should read too, by Donald Hoffman, um, chapter by chapter, starting with things like split brain experiments, and they've done all of these other kinds of the cleave consciousness experiments, where they've cut the brain in half, and all of these very interesting things, all the way up to how insects can go extinct um, by trying to have sex with a beer bottle. This all started with that, and it still continues today with that, because it fools their system into thinking that it's a female. The beer bottles do. This happens all over the world in many different places with many different organisms, all the way into quantum mechanics. So, general relativity, it's okay. Everything we see is not what's actually happening, okay? Everything we see is not what's actually happening. And the reason why I take this ride, I wanted all of you to know, is I actually have just read so many books and listened to so many lectures, and I've talked to so many intelligent people on air and off air. So we have this interface. I've learned, we have this interface that's operating system, and I'm taking all of this from the standard modern cognitive sciences approach, and I've looked at all of these, it's visual perception, and my findings, when I go after this idea, we're just seeing an interface. And I want you all to know for the show tonight that that's what you're going to have to concentrate on, is we're just seeing an interface. We're seeing a mirror image of, but not reflection back to the DOS, to the substrate of the program. We're not seeing any kind of what we call truth. We don't even know if truth exists. It's something that we made up to try to navigate the matrix, but we don't know if it actually exists. Okay. So, as you go, and if you look at some of the guys like Hoffman and others, there's only one way. I was going to convince my friends and my colleagues at the time that I'm right. So I tried to do some experimentations. I did some mathematics using evolution and by natural selection, which was very interesting. And natural selection does not favor organisms that see reality. I'm going to say this on a graduate level: organisms do not see uh, reality, that favor organisms that see reality. It does not favor the organisms that see reality as it is. Then I would get their attention. I would get other people's attention when I started working with some of the theories that I was listening to. The truth is too complicated. Okay, it's too complicated. It would take too much time and energy and thousands of lines of code and calculations to even get close to the tip of the iceberg. Okay, but we know that reality is not real. We know simply that reality is not real, and 27 to 30,000 scientists can't be wrong. Okay, so I explored the evolutionary part of this and the natural selection part of this, and I realized there was a deeper reason that I'd never ever understood before. And the reason is this: that fitness payoffs, which are like evolution, is like a video game, right? Evolution is like a video game. You have to go running around the screen as quickly as you can, grabbing points to try to get enough points here and there to get to the next level. And if you do, and if you don't, you die. And if you do, you move further up in the game. Well, this is the same exact thing that's happening here in evolution. You're grabbing um, what they call the game points. And as you know, grabbing fitness payoffs, that, you know, food, the right mates, and so forth, the right nutrition, the right diet, the right exercise, the right kind of life, taking the right kind of turns. But if you get enough, you don't yourself go to the next level. If your genes go to the next level, but you don't go to the next level. Your offspring benefits, but you die. Okay. You die in the game. Okay. And I realized I started studying this. And I was studying this with a lot of other students that I was working with, and I was reading Justin Marks and a lot of other people. And what we discovered, what's really going on, is that the fitness payoffs themselves, which is what we're going to be tracking, that's what our senses are going to be telling us about. Okay. It turns out that the fitness payoffs themselves, in general, do not carry any information about objective reality whatsoever. None whatsoever. Okay. They just tell you you're about to die. That's all. Okay. They tell you you're about to die. You're about to get something that you're good, you're bad, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't go there, don't go here, have sex with this, don't have sex with this. That's all they're telling you, okay? These signals. They're not telling you about any kind of truth or substrate, okay? Or base reality. We don't know what base reality would be or base truth would be. And I can say that more mathematically. They're not homomorphisms of reality. These are not homomorphisms of reality. Okay. So for mathematicians, generally, fitness payoff functions are not homomorphisms of structures and objective reality, but intuitively, it's just that fitness payoffs fitness payoffs, okay, aren't about the truth. They're about what you need to do to survive the matrix, to stay alive. And that secured it for me right there. That was a surprise to me, and it should be a surprise to you. Okay. Um, and this I learned probably around 2008 or something like that. Probably learned around 2008 that evolution was even further against seeing the truth than anything especially Darwin's theory, that I'd ever imagined. And I read a published paper in 2010 in the Journal of Theological Biology with some astounding results. They announced the results with the simulations. They were talking about the simulations at that time. They were doing hundreds of thousands of simulations at the time, hundreds of thousands of simulations back in 2008 and prior to that. And they found that organisms that saw the truth in these particular simulations went extinct immediately. And when they competed against organisms and saw none of the truth and were just tuned to fitness as we are, this is equal complexity organisms. So I was convinced then that it was a theorem. Okay, this was a theorem. It was becoming a theorem that organisms that see reality as it is, they never are never more fit. The organisms of equal complexity that see none of reality and are just tuned to fitness payoffs only. And I went to a mathematician and I talked to them, a longtime friend. It was actually back in '85, and was working on this proposed theorem. And these folks are geniuses. I talked to several geniuses and mathematicians, and they were able to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that this was actually a theorem. This was actually real, what I was seeing. And so, doing some further mathematics, we can actually show, in general, fitness payoffs destroy information about the structure of the world. Okay, fitness payoffs destroy information about the world. So it's a theorem. Organisms that see reality as it is cannot compete. Organisms that see reality as it is cannot compete. And of course, organisms that see reality are running on instinctual capacity only. Okay, they're not running on a self awareness program. Okay, organisms of equal complexity that see none of reality and are just tuned to fitness payoffs. Okay, so I wanted to reiterate for people who want to get more broad overview of all of this. They're going to have to go back and listen to some of the shows that we've done over the past 4 years. And some of these shows go very deep into this idea of the construct that is running behind this illusion of reality that we exist in now. So we're only getting parts and pieces, very limited amount of parts and pieces in this particular paradigm, just enough to have sex, to evolve into this illusion, to navigate this very complex matrix, and to eat, and to go to the bathroom and have digestion, and to have hydration, and be able to do some of the things that we do, think some of the things that we think. But in that process, we never see the substrate. We have never been outside of this space time delusion and seen the DOS program running or the substrate running whatsoever. This has never happened, and I don't know if it ever will happen. They tried with the Higgs boson, which they termed the God particle. They tried with several other experiments with CERN, and now they're kicking the power up with CERN, trying to find these other particle interactions and smashing these particles together, trying to find out if they can see beyond this, the substrate, into the substrate, beyond this delusion that we have conclusively identified as an illusion. And yes, we have also identified that everything comes together as the split particle experiment in thermodynamics has indicated, along with Einstein and Niels Bohr and Schrodinger and others, that nothing exists unless you're sensing it. Nothing exists unless you're sensing it, at least to your nodal position. Now, there are other nodal positions within the construct of collective consciousness that are experiencing. So, if you drop out of the game, there are other nodal consciousnesses who are picking up on the particular perception based on their experience and based on their cognitivity. But you're gone out of the game, you cease to exist. Just like in your video game, when you lose a player, where does it go? When your mouse goes, a little cursor goes off the screen, where does it go? Think about this. You move your cursor off the screen into the darkness, into the void. Where does it go? It doesn't exist anymore, right? So you've never seen the substrate, but we live in this very limited view, this very limited capacity, this very limited place where we only see just a minor percentage of variables enough to exist, enough to have sex, enough to evolve, enough to have offspring, and pass that particular consciousness or that particular projection to another avatar, okay, through a nodal conscious projection. Chad, would you like to kick in here and kind of,
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there was as you was talking about it, how you're saying that any kind of entity that realizes, so-called truth or reality, that it's not good for them, they die off. Well, that goes to a scientific experiment with the guy that did the rats in the bucket. He threw rats in the bucket. Within 5-10 minutes, rats would face it. They would see reality, as you would say. And what would they do? They would give up and die.
Hmm.
Now, on top of that, he also did the same experiments with rats. As he threw them in. As they would get ready to go under, he would stick his hand in. He would pick them up. He would hold them, dry them off, drop them back in the bucket. On average, the normal rat lasted 5-10 minutes before it gave up when it realized reality.
Hmm.
But the rats that had the false delusion that they would be saved or be this or that, they would tread water for hours. They wouldn't give up because they had a false sense of reality because they never got to see the true reality. And it makes sense what you're saying, that anybody who sees true reality is not going to evolve, because when you start seeing reality, it does work against you. It starts playing on your mind. It starts playing your thought
Well,
process.
well, you die when you see the DOS or you experience the DOS. And some people with the nirvana or the Brahman or the agape or the perfection or the atom, they die. But other people go into a state of ecstasy, like the master Shias. They can go into a state of ecstasy and hold that perception and stay alive. You're very, very, very smart to bring that up, Chad. What you just brought up, very interesting, but the rest go extinct relative to an organism that only sees the world in a dumbed down way. In a dumbed down way. This is where everybody is. This is where most people are. That hides most of what is actually going on, which we don't know what's going on in the DOS program. It only shows the organism what it needs, the bare minimum it needs to survive. That's what we're doing. The bare minimum that we need to survive and to reproduce. Okay. And if you waste any of your perpetual time and energy, okay, if you waste any of your perpetual time and energy on the truth, you're wasting your time and energy, okay? It's not going to help you stay alive unless you're a master Shia, and you will not be able to outcompete organisms that spend none of their perpetual time and energy, okay, on the truth and only spend it on looking for the payoff, as you said a while ago, points that help you win the game. Okay. So it's like a video game. It's exactly like a video game because it is a video game. Okay. If some guy is playing a video game, um, and he's just there looking around, enjoying everything, okay, and trying to figure out how it works and so forth, looking at the pixels and so forth, he's going to lose. Okay, he's going to lose to some other person uh, who is, focused on the points only. Okay, on the points, he's going to lose. On the person who's focusing on the points, they're going to win on the game points and trying to get them and getting to the next level. So, if you're dawdling around, okay, if you're dawdling around with anything but the payoffs, you lose. Okay, you lose. So that makes perfect sense because it's the same thing trying to understand than a video game. Okay, than a video game, which I've told you that we're in. If you're looking at all, Grand Theft Auto, right? You're what you're seeing there is a car, a bad guy, and this and that. Is that really what's there? Is that really what's there? And some people would say, yeah, 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 that's what's there because they're deluded. See, but then they're deluded. But then scientists would say, no, that's not what's there. Okay, that's not what's there. Uh, what's there? Take out a magnifying glass and look at the screen. The pixels are there. The gates are there. The quantum gates are there. But see, that's the substrate. Okay, that's part of the substrate, and you have to go back even deeper, deeper, deeper. It's the little tinier pixels beyond the Planck length in the substrate. So if you go behind the screen, you'll see the circuits and software that are hidden behind the whole screen itself. Okay. And is that analogy, as we say, is that the true nature of reality there? Okay. Is that base reality there? Well, that shows the difference between what we're perceiving and whatever objective reality might be. Now, this gets very, 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 very complicated. So, it's a metaphor to help break us from the idea, okay, to help break us from the idea that, of course, we're seeing the truth because we're not, okay, in any way, shape, form, or fashion. When we see an apple on the table, or we see the moon, it's just natural. It's natural for people to think, oh, of course I'm seeing the truth. My friends see it, my dog sees it, you know and they can see it. Everybody here can see it when my eyes are closed, so of course I'm seeing it. No, you're not. And I'm saying, no, no, this is all just a headset, a virtual reality headset that we've got on, this persona, this illusion, these senses, is a headset that we've got on. And I look at the moon, I render it. When I look at the moon, I render it just like in virtual reality. I look over in Grand Theft Auto, okay, for instance, with a virtual reality hat on. I look at my steering wheel, and so I'm rendering at that point in time a steering wheel. Now I look over here or over there, and I'm no longer rendering, okay? And there is no steering wheel when I look away from the game because I'm not creating a steering wheel anymore in the render. There's still in that metaphor, they're still in that metaphor. The circuits and software and all the program of Grand Theft Auto itself that I'm not seeing at all. I'm just seeing the stuff that I render. That's all. As I look around, I see cars and steering wheels and so forth. And not only that, but if you saw base reality objective, if you saw base reality, the thing in and of itself, okay, you would not be able to play or survive in the game. Okay, Chad?
Yeah, it's still a little hard for me to fathom. I mean, but I mean the rendering part, you're absolutely right. As you've broke it down to me, like we look at the mountains, they're a little blurry. I mean, you can see a little bit of detail on them, but it's still far out. We haven't fully rendered it, so it's almost like a figment of your imagination, which is everything that we render. It really is a figment of your imagination. It's your mind going wild because that's how it's been trained to see.
Well,
Um, Go ahead.
you're not seeing the toggles and the switches and the voltages and the gates that have brought the rendering about. You've only seen the manifestation of the illusion of all of that objectivity that's going on behind the scenes in DOS or in the base reality.
Yeah, it's difficult to explain, man, because this is like what you have me learning right now because it's tough. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I do know it's the Matrix, and the one part of the movie in the Matrix that ties all this together is when dude goes to double cross everybody, and he's sitting there eating a filet mignon, and even says he goes, "I know this isn't real. I know this isn't, but man, does it taste good." Even though he's sitting there knowing that it's not this, but the perception that he's seeing of the small reality of the video game impacts his mind to believe that he's eating a well cooked steak, the best steak he ever had in his life, when
Right,
he's actually eating nothing.
right.
And we see this now because they tell us mind over matter. As martial arts, this, they teach you to block out pain. When you get to the point where you can block out pain, you have no pain. even though pain is there, we can block it out. We can mentally just boo. And that's what's going on, but the reverse opposite of reality. We see reality, but we can't pull ourselves away, as you say, to see the ones and zeros behind the screens. It,
I told you about Dr. Edward J. Pullman, Southwest Hypnosis Center, teaching the Dallas Cowboys to not feel pain through hypnosis. You're exactly right. This can be actually trained into the program to alter the program to mind shift into a form of consciousness where you're not feeling the pain. You're not realizing the pain. You're able to transform. You're able to mind shift out of that particular area where you would normally feel pain. So, as Einstein kept saying, and him and Bohr kept arguing, and many other scientists, so you're saying the moon doesn't exist when I don't look. Okay, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Space and time themselves do not exist. Space time does not exist, period. Okay? Independent of us. So most of us think that space time is fundamental to reality. Most people would say that space time is fundamental to reality. But in fact, all objects inside space time, okay, are part, are on the stage, this pre-existing stage of space-time delusion. Okay, so space-time. So I'm saying that whole idea is wrong. Okay, we have to eliminate space-time from the equation. Space-time is something that you create in this moment of rendering. So I want all of you to understand that space-time is created in the moment of rendering. Now we could go metaphorical, and Chad and I might in a little while talk about the now moment being involved in that. But you're the author of space-time. You're not a bit player. You are the author of space-time or the space-time illusion. That's shown up 14 billion years later in the now moment, okay, after the stage was set, okay. So we are the authors of space time, and all the objects that we see, we're not a bit players in space time. We're not bit players in space time. Space and time are constructs of our interface. Now, you have to keep this word interface in mind, or DOS or substrate. Space time is a construct of our interface, okay? But now, so this is where it becomes very solipsistic, I would say. I would say it becomes solipsistic at this point in time, okay? And we could argue about that. And if you're not careful, so solipsism means that no, I'm not. I'm the only thing. I'm the only thing that exists, and I create the world, and everybody else. Okay, everybody else is a figment of my imagination, and so on. And you know, how is this different? Yes, I'm not a sopolipsic person. Okay, this is not true. Okay, a solipsist would say that, as you said and have said before, that yeah, we're creating the illusion, and there's nothing but me and my creation. A solipsist would say, okay, nothing but me and my creation. What I'm saying, that there are other consciousnesses. Now, listen to this. There are other consciousnesses out there. Okay. I'm talking with you right now on the radio. You're another conscious. I believe that you're not just a figment of my imagination. Okay. You're not a figment of my imagination. That means a lot to me. And I'm not a figment of your imagination. And that puts a certain responsibility on me, even though what I perceive is just you, Chad, okay? And me having a conversation, I need to be very, very careful how I treat this other icon, which you're an icon, you're an avatar. I need to be very careful how I treat you because in interacting with you, I could literally cause pain to the consciousness of Chad. I could literally cause pain to the consciousness of Chad, and you could cause pain to me. So our interface gives us a genuine portal to each other. Our interface that we've been um, constructed with, okay, gives us a genuine portal to be able to interact with other consciousnesses. All human consciousnesses, like my cat that I had, are my icons. Everything is an icon, okay? But I believe that my cat icons are portals, okay? Portals to real conscious creatures that, again, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to abuse. The mouse, the ants, and so forth, and the roaches, and all of the other bugs and earthworms. So it goes. I don't want to hurt. The interface, okay, I claim as all to other consciousnesses. There are other consciousnesses, but the interface is like a visualization tool. The interface is simply a visualization tool, and of course, a visualization tool is there to sort of hide the complexity and dumb things down and so forth. If you'll think about what I'm saying, because if we don't, we'd be completely overwhelmed by all of the consciousnesses out there. So we're only able to deal with certain nodule consciousnesses and certain moments of manifestation at a time, or we would be overwhelmed with the construct that's behind the curtain that Toto pulled back in The Wizard of Oz. If we were able to see that machine, we would be completely overwhelmed. Are you getting it? Well, I think Chad had to step away for a moment. But yes, we would be completely overwhelmed if we were able to pull back the curtain and see what Toto exposed in The Wizard of Oz. If we were able to see what's behind and inside the main frame, which we are not able to see or able to access, never have been able to access whatsoever. So we're only given a very limited amount of tools to be able to make our way through this very complex matrix of the illusion of space time through visualization and through the senses. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. But one thing many people are asking, because I know this comes up a lot, about people who really want to go deep into this. Okay, you have to study and you have to read and you have to practice meditation to be able to get into these higher ways of perceiving what is behind the curtain that Toto pulled back. Chad?
Yeah, it's hard to see the perception. I mean, it's easy to see the perception, but it's hard to see the reality that hides behind it. And you see this with everybody on the street. Okay, people always give a perception of what they want you to see, but behind closed doors, they're completely different. And this is basically how you're breaking it down. That I see it is that perception is the true distraction that we
Hmm.
all fight with, that we all battle with. Because if we can get away from perceptions and we can actually just look at things, take a break, step back, and look.
And realize that they are just projections.
Yeah,
They're not the operating system. They're not
no.
DOS. They're not DOS. They're not the platform. They're just a manifestation coming out of the platform to allow us to navigate in a very basic way.
See how I'm seeing it is we keep explaining it's like a video game. Okay. So like the people that play Call of Duty, when you play multiplayer online, You're stuck in a map
You saved my life, Mary.
that you literally interact with other players that could change the outcome of the game due to their perceptions or their AI character.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're all stuck in this video game with all these other people that are just battling, for perception and whose perception's right and this perception, that perception. That nobody wants to look away from perception and realize that at the base root of everything, we are everything and everything is us at the same time, which is still something I'm trying to fathom. It's,
And
it's tough.
what's interesting is you don't have to understand the substrate. You don't have to understand the operating system to realize that it's there and that it exists in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But it is allowing you to breathe. It is allowing your heart to beat. It is allowing you to move through this maze, to move through this dense fog of the illusion of space time. And when people realize this, they become master Shias, they can become sages, they can become yogis because they're not caught up in the emotions and the drama and the judgments that come from these lower based animals in the system who are highly emotional and highly sensitive and very dramatic on the stage of life here in the avatar in the matrix. They get rid of all of these psychosis, they get rid of all of this psychosis, they get rid of all of these dysfunctions, and they become a master at understanding and grasping the deeper meaning of the matrix.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I don't claim to know everything. I claim to know it a little bit, not a lot. And people I'm learning from, a master teacher, which is great. It really puts your life in check.
Well, it really does. And I've been able to come out and kind of simplify things without going into X, Y, Z and, the different types of mathematics, which there are thousands of ways into this calculative mode and hundreds of thousands of lines of code to perceive and to try and get through. And so I've tried to simplify things to be able to talk about the operating system and the substrate and using it as DOS, the operating system. The base operating system has never been known, it's never been perceived, it's never been seen, it's never been comprehended fully, but we do have an idea through the mathematical equations that it is there and it does exist in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and it is running the program that we are in at this time. How much more simple could I put it, Chad? But this also brings up the question of how do I have the ability of choice and how do I have the ability of free will if I'm running in front of this operating system or within this operating system? Then how do I have the freedom of choice? Well, you don't. You do and you don't. Both you do and you don't. It's an oxymoron. It's a very complex thing. You have free will to the extent of your imagination. You have free will to the extent of your capability and your abilities within the capacity of your cerebral cortex and your cerebellum and your frontal cortex and your senses and your filters and your neurons and your synapses give you the feeling of free will, give you the feeling of free choice. But in fact, at a very cold, hard scientific level, you have no free will or no free choice at all in the system. Chad, are you back? Chad had to run. So let's talk about this a little bit more in depth. Um, People that come to these conclusions, and I don't like to use the word conclusions because I always say I don't like conclusions at all. I like hypothesis. I'd prefer hypothesis to theorem, even. But at some point in time, we do run into the brick wall of theorem, we do run into the brick wall of the theoretical, and we have to momentarily leave the hypothetical and the hypothesis to actually see that this exists, that this operating system does in fact exist. Now, many people call this operating system God or Brahman or Yeshua or Elohim or Nirvana or perfection or a deity or supreme Lord and Master, and all of these other things, atom, and so forth. Many people see these things in different ways because people are perceiving from their experience in the matrix. They're perceiving from their abilities. They're perceiving from their focus and their projections of their from their consciousness. They're perceiving these projections. So you're projecting out, and things are projecting in, just like in a video game with quantum gates in a quantum computer. The quantum gates allow the calculations to be both one and zero at the same time. It's the same as spooky particles at a distance. It's the same as seeing the spin of a quark at 200 million light years apart, two quarks, 200 million light years apart, spinning, changing spin to match the other twin quark at that type of distance. It's the same exact process going on in the state of elusive consciousness within the space time continuum that you have created within your mind, within your brain, within your construct. Each person is running on an individual construct. Each person is an individual node within the total collective consciousness of the space time illusion. So, this is why people seem to have individuality when in fact they do not. They're all running on the same program. We do not, in fact, have any individuality at all. It's a misperception. It's an illusion that we have individuality. People like to think that they're very individualistic and they're very special in some way. They're not. They're running on the same exact construct that every other avatar is running on in the nodal system. Chad, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, somebody just flooded my floor. They
Yeah, I've
shut the
had that.
clothes up into there, and then they shut the door, ran the washer, and all the water that went in went all over my floor.
Oh, okay. Uh, Yeah. So Chad is in the space shuttle there, flying around at 27,000 miles an hour, and one of the cosmonauts there from the USSR flooded the spatial washing machine. So that's very interesting to say, Chad. But anyway, each individual perceives to be an individual. Each individual perceives their own perception. They perceive their own awareness. They perceive their own experience. When in fact, all of these are the same exact thing, running on the same exact construct, the same elusive construct, and the same misperception and misconception of that they're an individual. They're not an individual at all. We're not individuals. There's individual conscious nodal perceptions, but all of these conscious nodal perceptions are connected to the same spatial construct of the program that's running outside of the substrate. Is that hard to grasp?
Not for me. Like it is a little bit, but not really, because I've been working at it for a while, and I've had you to help me out, through my tough questions and my thought processes, that on that struggle. But yeah, I mean, before I had your help, it is it's a hard pill to swallow, more and less. The easiest way to say it, because everything you're taught goes against, what's really going on, and that's the hard part that we all need to overcome. Is just quit thinking about what we're taught. The minute that you can stop thinking about what we was taught, by somebody else, and actually sit back and look, it changes everything up. You know, like I'm glad you was able to pull me out of the psychosis, because I was still part of the psychosis, even though I
Yeah.
thought I was, aware.
Yes.
No, I wasn't.
No. No. We're not seeing the truth. You have to just remember in the show, you have to keep saying this. We're not seeing the truth. We're not seeing the truth. Maybe we're just seeing part of the truth. Maybe we're seeing a dumbed down version of what's actually there in the substrate. running behind the curtain. Okay, we're only seeing a very small part. Maybe it's a part of space time, but we're only seeing enough of it. Enough of it we need to see to survive. That's all we're seeing. That's all we're being allowed to see. We don't see infrared. We don't see microwaves, okay? We don't see x rays. Think about this. I can't see it, microscopic, okay? Microscopic, quark level, but this stuff exists. We're only seeing a manifestation of it, and that would help us to survive. In seeing a manifestation of it, we can create mathematics and calculations around it, and that's what most of my other scientists would say. Okay, they would say, of course, evolution didn't shape us to see all of the truth. Evolution did not shape us to see all of the truth. It only shaped us to see those parts of reality, objective reality that we need to stay alive and function in this mysterious thing we call the matrix. And so that's the standard view. That's the standard view that you might have come to. And what I'm saying is that if you look at the mathematics of evolution, if you look at the mathematics of evolution very carefully, it's called evolutionary game theory. And you and I have talked about this a long time ago. It's all game theory. Every AI program, every machine learning program, every GPT program, every advanced technological project involving any kind of quantum gate manipulation or advancements is based on evolutionary game theory. Okay? I want you to remember this. We don't have to wave our hands about this, okay? So, to all of my colleagues out there who are thinking intuitively about evolution, of course, they know evolutionary game theory is a precise mathematical model. They know that beyond the shadow of a doubt. And when you look at the mathematics, it says very, very clearly that it's not the case, that we're seeing just a minute fraction of the truth that we need. Okay? We're seeing none of the truth, almost surely. We're seeing none of the truth, almost surely. But what we do see and what we are able to utilize, we call truth. And at that point in time, if we're not understanding or comprehending the construct behind that illusion, we get caught up in the drama and the judgment and the labeling and the temper and the anger and the disruption and destruction and war and trauma and all of the other things that go with not being awake. Do you understand?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, and as we've said numerous times, we only see a 16% of all the light spectrum out there. So that alone tells you that we don't even see any of the real truth because, 15/16 of the light spectrum we can't see. So if we can't see it, then how can we even see real truth? I mean, that's the way that, I'm comprehending it right now because like you said, we can't see infrared, we can't see in ultraviolet colors, we can't see none of that. But most of the simulation is controlled by them wavelengths. It's controlled by that color. It's dark matter, as you would call it. What I think it is. And I don't think ever, as we walk in these avatars, I don't think we're ever going to see true reality ever
No,
until we're gone.
no, no, not even then. No, no, not even then. No, it's impossible. We're seeing entirely a user interface. I want you to write this down in your head. The whole point of a user interface. What is the point of a user interface? Like, for example, again, Grand Theft Auto, right? Think about Grand Theft Auto. Make this simple. The whole point there is nothing in what you see. Nothing in what you see in Grand Theft Auto that's in any way resembles the circuits, okay, and the software and voltages in that metaphor is the reality, is your reality. None of that, okay? You don't see the quantum gates. There's just no resemblance whatsoever to what you're living in as a delusion and the actual substrate or the actual interface or the actual uh, base source that's running the program. There's no resemblance whatsoever between the two. And that's not a problem. That's in fact an advantage. It allows you to control the reality that you have, even though you're completely ignorant about its true nature. You're completely ignorant of its true nature, and that's what evolution has done for us, and that's what the program masters have done for us. I'm saying we're not seeing just little bits. We're not seeing just little bits of the truth that we need. We're seeing none of the truth. We're seeing none of the truth. And that's what allows us to control the truth within the illusion, is we're seeing none of the truth. And that's what allows us to control the illusion effectively, because we don't know anything about the truth. We don't even know what the truth is constructed of. We don't even know where the truth is. We don't know where the truth is based. But we do know that it's objectively separate from the illusion and delusion of space time.
Yeah, you you put it out well. Just how you was talking about the circuits. We don't see the circuits. We don't see the power supply, the energy that's being put into it. Um, yeah, it's and I'm getting into this, and it's hard because I got to break down every, like I said, you got to forget every single thing you was taught
Well,
and start from scratch basically.
what we're seeing is eye candy. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for everyone. Eye candy is what we're seeing. Eye candy, eye candy, eye candy, eye candy. You know, that lets us do what we need to do. Okay. So the truth is very, very complicated. Okay. In order to survive and utilize what actually exists in this reality, because you're saying if stuff exists, stuff does exist, right? Stuff meaning, let's put that in some air quotes, okay? There is a world, right? It's not a figment of our imagination, would some people say, or construction. In other words, it's like a computer. It's a good analogy that we use. You see, you see, you see a trash icon. You can do things to that trash icon on the computer. You can throw away stuff that you want to throw away. You can accidentally delete something by accident and effectively die in the game, or on the computer can crash because the stuff is gone. So you don't take the trash icon literally. Okay, you don't say, "Oh, there's actually a trash icon." No, you don't. You just know that it's an icon. But behind the trash icon, what is there behind the trash icon that you're using on your computer? Zeros and ones. Zeros and ones, okay? And voltage gates and quantum engineering and all of these other things of mass and trajectories and the microscopic level that you don't see. And if you saw it, you wouldn't be able to compose an email. If you saw all of the truth or all of these operating system, you wouldn't be able to compose an email. You wouldn't be able to write a PM. You wouldn't be able to be on a talk show if you knew how all of these complex things that are going on around us that you cannot imagine. You would not be able to do anything at all that would be considered human. And we pay good money for these interfaces. We pay good money for these interfaces to hide the truth. These are engineers at the high level companies doing all of this, creating all of this skip through to the illusion. Okay, we're spending untold hours, thousands upon thousands of hours to simplify and give us this user interface. Okay, so that we don't have to deal with all the dials and the resistors and the voltages and all of the quantum gates. Okay?
Yeah, it's good way you put that. I like that eye candy, because it keeps us trapped in, and that does make sense because everybody's like, oh, it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful, but yet we don't even know what it really looks like.
No.
Um, just like right now, how people view me isn't how I view myself,
Right.
and just like when you look in a mirror, everything is reversed. Well, the only way to get a true picture of yourself is literally put two mirrors together and hit the 90-degree angle perfectly so you can reverse flip to see
Well,
yourself.
you see, when people see, when avatars see each other, or nodal consciousnesses see each other or perceive each other, you're only seeing just enough to get through the interaction. You're not seeing. Nobody's ever seen Chad. Chad does not exist. No one has ever seen me. We do not exist, period. You only see what you need to survive for the moment in the illusion with each other. That's all you're perceiving is what will help you survive the moment of the friendship or the relationship or the 10K run or the mountain climb or the jumping out of the airplane at 35,000 feet or baking the cake or putting the roast in the oven. You're only seeing eye candy. You're only seeing a minute fraction of the totality of this massive, incomprehensible thing. You get it? Just a fraction of each other. So we've never seen each other. We never will see each other. We will only see the perception of each other, the ideal of each other.
That's heavy, bro. Yeah, and like I said, it does make sense. Like it's like, granted, right now you can see behind me, but if you couldn't see behind me, that doesn't exist.
Right.
It's literally morphing. I morph it in, but I morph what I want to see in. Just like people say that one saying is, you only see what you want to see. Well, it's the truth. You do only see what you want to see, and what I see, like if I'm talking to a person, how I see them is different than how if you was talking to the same person, how you would see them, or if somebody else would see them. It's
But you can look at the handler. You can look at the handler that created the interface as a genie. Okay, you could look at the handler, you could look at the source, you could look at the DOS, you could look at the base platform that we haven't ever seen, never will touch, never will comprehend whatsoever, except in the mathematical equations of millions of lines of code to be able to even get a glimpse of that. The genie is creating the background there where you are. The genie is creating that background is because that's what you are. That's what you and I want to see. This is the dance that we're doing. This is the eye candy that's being rendered. Okay. It's just a simple rendering of this illusion to keep the conversation going and to get through the exchange.
It makes sense.
Otherwise, your
Um,
mind would be boggled, and my mind would be boggled, and nothing would be happening here. There would be nothing happening here if there wasn't some substance in front of the substrate.
yeah, because we'd see is code then.
Right.
Just like in the Matrix, when you see it come down the screen, you see the ones and zeros moving down the screen, but yet they can look at it and see what's going on. We wouldn't be
Exactly.
able to do that. Our mind wouldn't be able to compute that. That's
Exactly.
more than our brain can compute. Computers still today, I do believe, have problems even computing all these ones and zeros
Yes.
to be able to get a true image. Like you
Well,
said, CERN is
we
still trying it itself.
we've gotten to the ceiling. I said in all mathematics right now, we're to the ceiling in all computational forms of mathematics and calculations. We're to the ceiling. We've got to break through the ceiling now. We're trying. We're starting to hit that firmament that you and I always talk about. We're starting to hit that ceiling, and we don't know what to do now. We don't know where to go. The avatars have become so brilliant in observing this illusion of space time. Now we're trying to get out of the box, and we're hitting the wall. See, you understand? We
Yeah.
don't know where to go now. We're looking at the fifth dimension. We're looking traveling into the Aquarian age. We're looking, we're metaphorically thinking of all these ways to escape. Oh, God's coming back and take us to heaven. Oh, then we'll escape the illusion of space time. At that point in time, we'll transform, we'll transact, we'll reanimate. See, everybody wants to reanimate. Everybody wants to escape the box. So they make up all of these other genies and all of these other ideals and metaphors to feel like they're going to escape the program that we're in. And they're not. They're just going to jump from one program to another, or they're going to just become a part of the substrate or the DOS system as they eliminate from the game. Back to the
Uh,
DOS system, back to the substrate, back to the DOS system, back to the mainframe. And who
yeah.
knows then what will happen.
It's an infinity loop.
Yeah,
It's exactly what it is. No matter what you do, it's still going to keep bringing you back to the beginning. You can't get out of it. Um, it's true insanity. True
it can
insanity.
be. You and I talked about how do guys like you and I stay in the chair without our hair standing straight up on our head and our eyes bugging out and smoke coming out of our ears and us being locked up naked in the corner of some behavioral health unit with a two boluses of Thorazine in our ass in a straitjacket going. Well, we have to. You really have to center yourself, man. Just you know what I mean? And
Oh
even to
yeah.
have conversations. Remember what we said last night about it's difficult to have conversations with other avatars who are still in the monkey brain, who are still in that prehistoric monkey brain, that limbic, that lower base mental system of emotion and drama and jealousy and excitement and insanity and all of these other psychosis. We call them psychosis and dysfunctions and abnormal psychology. Well, that's just because they have not stopped to think, stopped to concentrate on what we're talking about here.
Phew. It is hard to keep your mind sane. It's hard to stay sharp because everything's trying to take you down. Everything's trying to make you look crazy. Hang on. But yeah, it's hard. I ain't even gonna lie. There's times I just want to, go somewhere in the middle of the woods and just scream my head off and disappear for a couple days and pull away. But if I do that, the only thing I'm doing is taking myself off the focus because
But
I can't sharpen my mind.
you do bring up something very interesting, and that is taking that break. You and I could go out together and sit naked in the woods with Andare or Arime, and we could sit naked in the woods and just feel the earth and ground ourselves in the earth, and we could detoxify. We could beat a drum at a certain frequency. We could hear it at 432 or 920, and we could get into this chant, and we could get into this. See, things happen. I don't know if you've ever been to a Pentecostal church or not, but a holy rolling. I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you. It's going to be like going to It's going to be beyond any Disneyland. Okay, these people are highly charged individuals in the esoteric and the ontological. They're very highly charged individual. They're using every sense of power within them to connect with source. And then literally sparks come from their bodies and their hair stands straight up on their head and they cry, you'll shake, you'll have seizures. They can actually bring you to this. Why do you think that happens?
Honestly, I really couldn't tell you. Well, I know it's that the frequency's high up and that they're in touch with the acoustic records, but it's
They're feeling source. They're getting close to source. They're breaking through that wall, and that's as far as you're ever going to get. DMT, ayahuasca, LSD, close as you're ever going to get. Close as you're ever going to get. You're in what we call the implotic load, or the membrane between the cell and the intracellular wall and the extracellular wall. You get in between there, kind of like in the middle of those two worlds that are coming together, dimensions. You're actually penetrating at that point. You're starting to penetrate at that point. It's like walking through a wall. You're all of a sudden so ecstatic. You're all of a sudden so highly charged, and your frequencies become so high and balanced and synchronistic that you're able to meld and walk through a wall.
yeah, and you've been talking about that like that, and I've seen pictures of or videos of monks that get into that higher state to where they sit in boiling water. You
Uh huh.
know,
Or
they'll
they
literally like
levitate. Or they levitate.
they levitate is another one. I've watched them break bricks, that should be humanly impossible. With a 3-inch punch, they're breaking like a 4 or 5 inch terracotta brick, which is extremely
I do that.
like hard. But yeah, it's because you're staying focused. You're amplifying your energy. You're pulling from the source and
Hmm.
using source to your advantage. And these monks, as you say, it takes some years of dedication to even attempt any of this. We watch monks. I've seen it too, where they put the spear right here to their throat, and they can literally bend a wood
I can.
spear and stab
I
it.
can. I do that. Yes, I do that. I've done that.
And that's one of those
Um,
mind over matter tricks.
but it's also, you talk about magic. We talked about magic yesterday. You can take control of your environment with this understanding, this comprehension, this practice. You can take control of your total environment. As little as it is, as little as you've been given, as little as we've been given, you can take control of your environment. What did I say yesterday? Diabolical way or a good way? You choose, right?
Yeah,
And
that is true.
so it's your choice, you know. And what is diabolical to one may not be, may be utopic to another. What is utopic to that one may be diabolical to another. So you can't judge. This is where people say, don't judge. You can't judge. You cannot judge anything. Just like there is no truth. If there is zero truth, then how can you, what are you basing your judgment upon? What is your standard? Where did you set, who set that standard? It's impossible.
It's all false perceptions, and that's what it's all backed off of. And you know, um, I can't wait to get my mind sharp. That sharp and that focused. But it's right now. It's I was a butter knife. I graduated to a steak knife right now, but I'm still not good enough. To cut that perfect. As a sous chef does. That perfect cut that they do. I'm not able to do that. My mind isn't that sharp yet. But once you start grabbing it, like we've watched and people that's close to me watched, what I'm doing right now manifest within 48 hours, at the work that I'm doing 48 hours just by sharp critical imagination, enhancing.
Visual,
Yeah.
visualization.
Yep. Enhancing the intake of the ether into you, of source into you and pushing source back out to it. And it does work. Some people it takes a long time to work for because they haven't mastered the skill. Some
Im-
people like you, I've seen like that.
these
I mean,
people have impediments, boundaries, obstacles of psychosis, impediments of psychosis. They have emotional problems, emotional difficulties, childhood traumas that they thought happened to them, but they weren't thinking about the now moment, and they weren't understanding the construct, and they weren't understanding the backdrop. and they weren't understanding the operating system versus the illusion of space time. So they hold on to these illusions and they hold on to these traumas and they hold on to these doubts, and therefore they never become a master teacher or a master Shia. You understand? But is that simple enough? If you
Yeah,
hold on to the poison, if you hold on to the poison, why don't you just let it go?
yeah. Like you've beaten my head all the time, and you say it all the time to me. If you see Buddha on the road, kill Buddha. You
Kill
know,
him.
yeah, kill Buddha. And we are, every single one of us is Buddha. Okay, our self is Buddha, and this is what I said. You know, you got to literally throw yourself away and relearn all this, because all these speed bumps aren't going to let you hit top speed. All these
Right.
speed bumps are going to slow you down and everything else. And then you got to make these corners, you got to slow down. And that's only because that's your past. And that's what you're letting affect you now. Like we had this conversation, you know, I have a fear of failing. And you looked at me, why? What you did you fail yet? No. Then why are you worried about it? You know, it's automatically putting speed bumps, you know, in my road. And people need to understand we need to stop doing that. We need to stop self-destructing even before we get off the ground. And that's what a lot of us are doing.
And other people would like to see you come down to their level of comprehension and their level of emotional degradation and come down and get on their frequency. And this is a problem. People want to drag you down into their drama and their emotion and their sickness and their feeling. They want you to feel what they're feeling. And this is a cancer you need to get away from. This is a cancer you need to run from. Jealousy is a cancer. Jealousy is a cancer. Hate is a cancer. Doubt is a cancer. Judgment is a cancer. You see, and you have to, like Kim said, leave the past in the past. And that's one of the hardest things in the world for people to do because they don't understand the past never happened. It all happens in the now moment. And that's an illusion of space time because there is no space time. So therefore there was no happening. There was no event except in that nodal moment of elusive perception of the energy and the frequency that happened at that moment of a compression to bring that idea into functional focus in the matrix.
Yeah. And that's where I'm grappling now. You know, I'm starting to understand that the past never happened. The past
Right.
is just a psychosis that's built into us, you know, to think that it's going on. It's invented to impede us, it's invented to slow us down, it's invented to
Hmm.
take us off our course.
Well, the
And
fact to remember, the fact, the tool that came through evolution to remember a past is a an impediment. So you have to get through that impediment and break. You have to break free of that impediment.
yeah, and the only way to break through that impediment is you literally got to kill Buddha.
Right.
It's it. Um,
Well, let's tell
because
people before they get upset. Let's tell people what kill means. It means to eliminate all of the impediments and all of the problems and all of the distortions that you've come to program yourself with or be programmed with that would slow your progress down in becoming a more focused, a more powerful, a more loving, compassionate, aware, intuitive, discerning avatar, and would give you the power of control over your environment in a very rather than all of this wavy stuff going on all the time. You see, you want it to you want it to smooth the waters out, and then they're gone, they vanish, and it was never there.
like a good metaphor, you know, that I heard, and it actually works, is you can't see your true reflection in water because the water is moving, it's rippled, so you're not seeing the true reflection. The only time you can see the true reflection is when the water calms. Well, the only way to calm the water is to get rid of all your thoughts, all your doubts, all your perceptions of who you really are, because in reality you are the water. And when
Right.
people realize they are the water, like Bruce Lee says, become water. Water can crash, water can calm, water can destroy, but also water gives life, water gives power, water gives energy. And once we learn to calm down and relax and be at peace, because the minute you let go, you're at peace. Once we're at peace, we're unstoppable.
Well, actually, the reflection in the water is more real than you are,
This is true.
and it's much more peaceful because it has melded with the unknown. It has melded with nature. That reflection, it's a part of the substrate. It's a part of the substrate because you can't describe it, you can't define it, you can't touch it. You can't put your river in the same, you can't put your foot in the same river twice. Think about that, y'all. You cannot put your foot in the same river twice because everything is always in movement. Nothing is static in the universe. Nothing is static in the illusion of space time. The only place you will find that perfect stillness is in the substrate of mathematical, calculative comprehension. That's where the monks find the peace, is killing the self, as Chad said. You must kill the current self, which we know is dysfunctional. 98.8% of you are full of dysfunction. You're full of judgment. You're full of worry. You're full of depression. You're full of stress. You're full of pointing the finger at others and judging and labeling and emotions and excitement and hyperactivity and jealousy and all of these other insane things that just make the world go down the sewer. You can live such a wonderfully calm, cool, collected life no matter what kind of objects are being thrown at you from the outside. It's your choice to act, react, or interact in whatever way you so choose through higher consciousness.
That's like our relationship. You know, People don't know that me and you have no labels on each other whatsoever on in our friendship and our relationship.
Right.
He don't judge me. I don't judge him. I tell him my dirty secrets. He tells me his dirty secrets. And actually we've had a better relationship because of that, because there's no labels. There's no bounds to us. Like a lot of people, they could be friends with somebody, they say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, they get labeled, relationships over. And that's like one of the dumbest things ever, in my opinion, is to label anybody on any of that stuff, because there's not a single perfect person on this earth. And especially when we go into the now moment, as you've been teaching me, the now moment, nothing ever existed. Like, we've been on here for an hour and 32 minutes. I guarantee
But
you, an hour and 32 minutes, this doesn't exist.
no,
Doesn't
never,
exist. It's
no.
gone. It's been erased,
Time.
people.
Time has been taken completely out of, now that we've gotten to this point, time has been taken completely out of the equation. Space has been taken completely out of the equation. So science is moving for the first time, thank goodness, into the esoteric along with the scientific and the empirical. They're moving into the ontological and the esoteric, and they're combining the two together with philosophy, and we're starting to get a more clear picture of what we should be doing. Isn't that wonderful? It's taken this many years for science to marry with ontological reasoning and ontological analysis and estological analysis. Isn't it amazing that these things have been known for thousands, if not millions of years, and this new simulation is just now picking up on it, Chad?
Yeah, and back in the day, the Egyptians, the Mayans, the Hopis, the Aztecs, the Kemets, they all talked about it.
Yeah, yeah. Sumerians, Babylonians, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go. As I said, I had a seizure and I almost lost it. I quit breathing. Marion got my breathing back by doing some CPR. I lost it completely. I had a seizure. I had a really bad seizure. Some lady, I will tell you, at the mall today. She sold me a donut and said it was CBD. And as I was taking, I couldn't afford it. I just can't afford it. It was $50 for the bottle, and I couldn't afford that. And so I got three samples, and the samples that were there were out there for kids to take. I can't believe this. Mary wants to report them, and I said, no, we're just not going. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do yet. Let me get through my coma here first. My seizure. She says, oh, that's nothing in there. There's only 0.1% THC in that. You can go ahead and take that. It'll be just like CBD. Well, I went ahead and took three of them and put them in my pocket. And I went ahead and took one at the mall. And then when I get home, I have a cardiac arrest. Here I am laying on the floor dead when Miriam walks in. She grabs me and knocks me out and starts doing CPR. And she does chest compressions from my rear. She couldn't pick me up. I was on the floor. I was caught. I was hoping Chad. She was hoping Chad was here. I was caught between the cowling and the two. You know how small it is down here, Chad.
Yeah.
I was crammed in there with my head down, and she couldn't get me up. She had to grab me around here and pull me and fall back. She fell completely backwards into the floor between these table and the couch, and then started doing compressions on me and got me back. And my
Now,
eyes were rolled back in my head, and that was because
now,
of the THC.
now you gotta look. There's another thing you have to look into. It might not have been a THC. Was it a Delta CBD? Because if it was a Delta strain CBD, that's a synthetic CBD, and that's a synthetic THC. It's not a natural.
I know.
I mean,
All I
that's what I'm saying.
know
If it's Delta, it can stop your heart.
All I know is it was really, really bad experience because I was gone for a while. You know what I mean? I was gone. She couldn't feel a pulse, and I had no respirations. And she got me back, and I'm here. So, you know, what
Thank
can I
you,
say?
sis.
Yeah, she said yes. Thank you, Chad. So anyway, you all, much love, and I hope that Chad and I have been able to impart some wisdom your way of things that we have observed in our own lives and things that we have talked about in our own lives and experienced things that have worked or not worked to create what seemed to be uh, a better experience and more in-depth perception of what's going on around us and to clean out the trash and get rid of all the dysfunction and all of the dysfunctional emotions and all of the judgment and all of the other things that cause people to um, separate, to divide, to have arguments, to have anger, to have depression, and all of these other things. Chad and I are trying to create a better world, a better place by revealing the knowledge and the wisdom that we have come upon, that we've talked about together and tried to reason. Chad and I reason these things out. We don't come together and go, we're the smartest two guys in the whole wide world. We come together like two goofballs sometimes and like, what the hell is going on here? But we have to talk through these things. We have to really, I mean, really talk through these things. And that's what you have to do in order to come to some kind of realization. And you have to practice and you have to put your mind and concentrate on these things. And you have to really want, like Chad said earlier, visualization. Visualize what you want, be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. Now, people can voice that all day, but they don't mean it. You have to be the change you want to see. You have to visualize it already being there and coming upon you and within you. And then the dark matter, and Chad talks about the ether, and we talk about the void, and we talk about the quantum field. It will manifest. That genie will give you what you want, bad or good. I'm going to tell you right now, if you go around with a lot of negatives, you're going to live negative. You're going to live stupid. Your house is going to be ugly and nasty, and your whole life is going to be ugly and nasty, and your relationships are going to be ugly and nasty. Your mind is going to be ugly and nasty. You got to get rid of it. You got to kill yourself. You got to kill yourself and restart the engine. Y'all take care. We'll see you. Love you. May the force be with you all.